Good morning and welcome to my show. I'm your host, Danny Graham. I both invite and encourage you to walk with me on the road to wisdom. Come on, y'all. Let's walk. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning here in South Carolina, and it is cold this morning. I think it's going to be 30s. You don't get any higher than 50 something degrees. I think I looked at my phone last night. And hey, as y'all know, I don't like the cold weather, but hey, it's God's will, so I got to do what He wants us to do and follow His will and just buckle up and get warm in here. Today, as you can see, the show is going to be talking about right here. Know when to listen. That's the title of the show. Know when to listen. And I'm going to give you the definition of listening. Listening is when you take notice of and act on what someone says, responds to, advice, or request. Say it one more time. Listening. Take notice of and act on what someone says, responds to, advice, or a request. So, there's a saying that you need to listen more and talk less. God gave us two eyes so we can listen more and one mouth so we can talk less. The Bible talks about how this tongue, boy, can cut deep and can spew out stuff, Lord, that you would not believe. But it doesn't say anything bad I know about listening. Listening is a good thing. God is pleased when we listen. The scripture today comes from the book of James, first chapter, 19th verse, and it says, "My brothers and sisters, take notice of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Let me see it one more time. The scripture comes from the book of James, the first chapter, 19th verse, and it says, "My brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Lord, I pray for that everyone. Lord, bridle my tongue, and Lord, can make me slow to anger. And sometimes, as much as I pray for it, sometimes I still slip. So that's something you got to constantly keep praying, constantly keep working on, constantly having in the back of your mind that, hey, I can say something crazy, and the repercussions could be crazy. And it can be very damaging. But if you listen, a lot of times when you listen, you can discern stuff, and then you can figure stuff out. You can kind of read the tea leaves and determine whether or not what you need to say, how you need to say it, and when you need to say it. So definitely make sure that you listen. I'm going to show you a clip today. It's from a man I've been following. His name is Andy Stanley. And it's a series called You Be Glad You Did. I think it's a 7-part series, but I listened to the first 2 parts in entirety. But I usually listen to it. I'm going to work, coming from work. But this part I'm going to show you, now I'm going to show you 3. It's one segment. I'm going to show you 3 different, no, it's one video, but I'm going to show you 3 different segments of it. And it's talking about listening and how we should listen to people and take advice, good advice, that people that really love us and think a lot about us. A lot of times when we decide to do something, we just go ahead, and it doesn't matter what anybody says, no matter what good points they make. If we want to do it, it is locked in. We got tunnel vision. We ain't trying to hear nothing else, even if we know in our heart of hearts, in our mind, that the advice that someone is giving us is sound advice and good advice. But the heart wants what it wants. And sometimes logic and thinking and common sense goes clear out the window. But this guy's going to talk about it, and then I'm going to show a little bit of clip, and we'll come back and we'll discuss a portion of the clip. So here we go. Give me a minute. Here we go.
As you did, timeless, unoriginal advice is just one word, and the word is listen, which is very odd advice to give to a group of people sitting quietly in rows facing forward. I realize, okay? You don't have much choice. And I also realize that without context, because some of you are already thinking this because you're smart people, you're way ahead of me. Without context, this isn't necessarily always good advice. But we're mature, so let me couch this because you know where I'm going with this. if we're honest, no one has to tell us or advise us to listen to what we want to hear, right? I mean, how many times do I have to tell you, order dessert? You know, that's never happened, right? Lease the car, buy the shoes, call him back, move in, blame her, blame him. Don't call, just text. Don't apologize, it wasn't your fault, right? I mean, nobody really has to lean in and advise us, you know, because when we hear things we already want to do, it's like, absolutely, that doesn't take listening skills, because confirmation bias is strong in all of us. Nobody has to say, listen to me, when we're hearing something that we wanted to hear and, you know, basically moves us in the direction we were already moving in. We don't lean into advice that feeds an appetite, because nobody needs to advise us to follow an appetite. We just do that naturally. But it's pausing, it's unfolding, uncrossing our arms, and agreeing to listen to what we don't want to hear. That's what we're talking about. That's the challenge. That's today's advice. And that is maturity. When you're willing to listen to what you don't want to hear when you need to hear it, that's maturity. You know what that does for you? And this should cause all of us to just embrace this immediately. This puts you ahead of the pack. This puts you ahead of everybody else. It keeps you out of trouble. It ensures that you're going to write a story that you will be proud to tell to your children and your grandchildren. That's what this does for us. But the reason we have to talk about it is because it's not natural, right? I mean, as I said a few minutes ago, I mean, I still kind of hang on emotionally, I think, at times to my adolescent ways in terms of I just don't want to be told what to do. And once I have an idea, I don't really want to hear the information that makes it sound like a bad idea, because I want to do what I want to do. Natural is tell me what I want to hear. In fact, I gravitate to these people, don't you? I gravitate to this advice. It makes me feel smart. It makes me feel secure. It just confirms my bias, right? So don't, if you're not going to tell me what I want to hear, then just don't tell me anything at all.
How many of us fall into this same trap? If you don't tell us what we want to hear, we ain't trying to hear it. A lot of people are unsuccessful because they have too many yes men around them. I believe, I remember story correct, MC Hammer, at the height of his power and his fame and his notoriety, he had people around him, just yes man, yes. And eventually it drained him and it cost him his career. He tried to help people, but there was somebody there that didn't say no. Somebody said, maybe Hammer, you need to invest this money, or maybe you don't need to employ this person. Maybe you need to do this, maybe you need to do that. He didn't do it. He thought a lot of these people that are famous, rappers, musical groups, they think that money just keeps coming in, and it just keeps coming in. And for some of them, they are cash cows, but guess what? Sometimes if you don't prepare, if you don't listen to what people are trying to tell you, then bad things can happen. There is an athlete in the NBA by the name of Ja Morant. People trying to tell him, and didn't listen. Now it's causing him a lot of money. It may have cost him his shoe deal that he had, may have cost him several other endorsements. Right now, it's causing his team a lot, because the Memphis Grizzlies are a very, very bad team now for is on the court. And I think it's because of his leadership, his spark, his energy, and he potentially could cause them maybe not even to make to play in this year, because he didn't listen to people. How many times in the Bible that people didn't listen to God? I was reading the book of 1 Kings and 2 Kings, and it just goes through the whole entire list of kings that God put in place for Egypt, not Egypt, for Israel, the kings for the Israelites, and they just did do crazy things. Some were favored, but a lot of them weren't favored. The ones that weren't favored reigned and did all kind of crazy stuff, and God punished them. He killed some. He had some killed. Some just died, but some were good. And even those that were favored, like David and Solomon, they still failed. They still fell short of what God really wanted them to do. David lusted after one of his general's wife, Bathsheba, and had himself to war and killed. And Solomon, he married over the wisest man ever on the planet Earth. Son of David, he married over 700 women, and all those women caused him to go away from God's will because he didn't listen. You have to know when to listen. Moses, he had that calling, and he listened to God. He went Mount Sinai, and God told him to remove his shoes, and then God instructed him to go to back to Egypt to free his people. And at first he was resistant; he didn't want to do it, but he listened. And when you listen, that's when good things happen. When you listen to God, that's when good things happen. As you know, Joshua, when he took over the city of Jericho, he listened to God. God told him, instructed him what he needed to do. Take your army, go around once time each day around the city of Jericho, march around there. And then on the seventh day, you do it 7 times. You tell your people to yell, and the walls of Jericho just seemed to fall into the ground. And they were able to get Jericho, and it became the land for the Israelites, the promised land, which what God promised them to do. So by listening to God and by listening to people that have your best interests at heart, a lot of times God is talking through those people, and you just need to learn to listen. You got to know when to listen. You got to know when to go on your own gut. Recently, there's a situation that came into my life, and I prayed to God, and I said, "Lord, show me the way. Tell me what I need to do. Do I need to stay put, or I need to move, or do I need to do this and do that?" And I think last night I got my answer, and and it was like, you might need to stay put, because things I just keep hearing, researching, asking questions, and trying to better educate myself. And I think I came to the answer. So you gotta know when to listen. I'm gonna go back and get back. I want to get back to another portion of this clip. Let me go ahead and switch the screen, and we'll get back to it. I need to get to the 10:47 mark.
I wrote it, but this is so important, and it connects to something we talked about last time. Refusing to listen to what we don't want to hear that we need to hear is a gateway decision. Refusing to listen to what we don't want to hear that we need to hear is a gateway decision. Here's what I mean by a gateway decision. The worst thing you've done in your life, the thing that created the greatest regret of your life, was not listening. But refusing to listen was a gateway to the thing that perhaps you wish you could go back and unlive that season of life, that weekend, that marriage, that whatever it might be, that relationship, that financial decision. It wasn't refusing to listen wasn't the worst thing you ever did, but refusing to listen was the gateway to the decision you would give anything to go back and undo. But some of the worst things you've done, again, some of the worst things I've done, I would not have done if I had listened. And
that's what he says. He talked about a gateway decision. And basically, how many of us have talked about it and said to ourselves, or maybe said to our loved ones, God, I wish I had listened. I wish that how many times have we said, I wish I knew then what I know now. Or I wish I could put my knowledge now in the 20-year-old version of Danny, or the 20-year-old version of yourself. If you knew back then what you knew now, and you listen and do things, the potential is crazy. What you could do, what everyone could do, if we would go back and learn and could put our knowledge, our wisdom, our experiences in the younger versions of ourselves. The world would be a much better place in some aspects, and for those that are just evil and unrighteous, it would definitely be a worse place. But I'm just saying, you gotta listen. And part of what he was talking about too was maturity. A lot of time, wisdom doesn't automatically mean that. Well, maturity doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be wise. That's something that you have to learn. You have to pray about. You have to develop. It's not something that, and in some cases, it's going to be God given. In the Bible, God gave Solomon the wisdom because that's what he asked for, and that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for wisdom, and I'm asking for that wisdom to share and to try to explain things. And I think that if you truly ask for wisdom, you truly seek it, then that's something that's going to develop over time. You'll start reading more. You'll start asking more questions. You'll start listening more. You'll start trying to formulate ideas based on the information that you get. And the key to that, like I said, I don't want to sound redundant, is that you got to know when to listen. Even bad people, I read this in the book, even someone that's bad can give good advice sometimes. Even someone that's not a good person, sometimes what they say can be something that you need, or show you what not to do instead of showing you what to do. But like you were saying, this gateway, um, have to learn to listen. Have to learn to put yourself in situations, in good situations. Surround yourself in good situations. And I keep saying this old saying: if you hang with 9 broke friends, you're bound to be the 10th one. If you hang with 9 anythings, you're bound to be the 10th one, either, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But if you indulge in 9 good things, you're probably going to do a 10th good thing. If you indulge in 9 people that's doing bad things, you're probably going to be the 10th person that does bad things. So it's all about placement in your environment, and all about, like I said, listening and gathering information, using common sense, learning discernment. Discernment is something that I think can definitely be taught, but you have to put in the time, you have to put in the work. It's not something that you pick up like that overnight. It's something that you have to learn, a skill set you have to develop. But like I said, listening also is a skill set you have to develop. In this profession, a lot of times cases are solved, or you find something that sparks your thought process when you listen to something, and you play things back over and over and over. You talk it out with your partner or your coworkers, and a lot of times by listening to these things, that's how a lot of things can get solved in professional life, in private life, in spiritual life, in any aspect of your life. Listening is definitely the key to success. And let me get back to this last portion that I want y'all to hear this. Let me go to the 1409 mark.
In, or somebody loves you enough, and they put your relationship with them on the line because they love you so much, and they tried to get in front of you and head you off at the pass again and tried to talk you out of something because it was so clear to them. But it's never as clear to us, because when we are in decision-making mode, when we're looking at options, especially as it relates to relationships and money, relationships and money are not emotionally neutral topics. Did you know that? Yes, they are not emotionally neutral topics. And once our appetites get involved in the decision-making process, it is almost game over, because we just hyper-focus. There's all kinds of things that happen psychologically when there's something that we want. And we can't see clearly in our own decision-making process. We can't see clearly in our own lives, but usually there's somebody who can. And the wise man, the wise woman, regardless of their age or stage of life, is the one that is willing to uncross their arms and say, okay, I don't want to hear this, but go ahead and tell it to me anyway. If you'll stop, if you'll pause, if you'll listen, you'll be glad you did. When you hear yourself, I guess one way of saying it is this: when you hear yourself saying, or you catch yourself thinking, or you find yourself humming, I don't need you to worry for me because I'm all right. I don't want you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore. This is what? This is my life. Go ahead with your own life. Leave me alone, okay? When you find yourself thinking any of those thoughts or humming any of those tunes, that is the time to tap the brakes. It is not the time to hit the accelerator. Now, some of you are thinking, Andy, how did you know? Who told you? Who told you? Who told you? Nobody told me. This is just the world we live in. This is all of us at some season of life. And for somebody today in the rooms with me, or in the room with me, or you're watching somewhere, I mean, this is exactly what's going on right now, because your spouse has tried. Your fiance has tried. Your best friend has tried. Your roommate has tried. The guy at work, somebody who works for you, and it's so hard for them because you're the boss, you're the manager, you own the franchise, and yet they care so much about you, they have tried to say, hey, would you consider, and you've just shut them down.
How many of us have done what he's saying? We are so laser focused on what we want, and it sounds so good that we don't listen to reason. You gotta learn how to listen. And like he said, sometimes you may be the supervisor, sometimes you may be the parent, sometimes you may be the spouse. And your spouse and your children and your coworkers are trying to tell you, hey, look, I don't know, man. You might want to do this, or you might want to do that, but you're so you know in your mind, your belief is so strong that you're right that you don't even give pause for cause. You don't even pause to think that maybe they're seeing something I don't see. You have to learn that. A lot of times, That leads to the road of pridefulness. And the Bible talks about pridefulness. The Lord does not like pridefulness at all. He wants you to be humble. He wants you to listen. He wants you to listen to his word. And sometimes God speaks to you directly through dreams, with your little voice in your head, your conscience. And sometimes he speaks to you through people. He'll send someone to tell you something. There's a buddy of mine that always had these dreams, and it seems to translate to something that's happening in real life. I believe God works through dreams. It says so in the Bible. So I'm just saying that learn to listen. It's a very, very valuable tool. It's a very, very wonderful gift that God has given all of us. We just have to learn how to harness it, learn how to develop it, and learn how to pay attention to it. And because it's easy to get in our own way sometimes. It's easy to think that what we doing and what we saying is always right, and it's not always right. You don't know everything. Nobody on this earth is perfect. There's only been one perfect person on this earth that I'm aware of, and his name is Jesus, and none of us are him. So, just my 2 cents on this. Know when to listen, learn when to listen, develop that skill set, because it will definitely help you. It will not be a hindrance. I can promise you, it will not be a hindrance. Before I get out of here today, I want to read this quote of the day, and the quote of the day is, "Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to listen." Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to listen. Become somebody that wants to be listened. Become somebody that wants to listen to people. Don't be that person that just wants to be heard. Become that person that listens to what people say. And then once you listen, develop an intelligent response and tell them. Be in a mode that you're going to help people, not criticize people. Be in a mode that you're going to help people and not hurt people. Be in a mode that you're going to help people and not undermine people. Be in a mood that you're going to help people and not destroy people. You do that, and God is definitely going to bless you. Now, if this is the first time ever being on this channel, viewing my content, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe. Also, I'm going to ask you to hit the notification bell, because I don't want you to miss any material that I upload here in the future. Also, I'm going to ask you to hit that like button, hit the thumbs up. That definitely helps me out. Also, leave me a comment. Any comment that you leave, I definitely read, and I will respond back to you in a timely fashion. And last but not least, I want you to watch my video in its entirety from start to finish. Again, I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay warm if you're here in South Carolina. And I will see you on Friday. Until then, be blessed and have a safe day. Later. Peace.